Good morning, CLC. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here and a part of this. We appreciate you. And so, with that, I invite you to say with me, divine love blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now, I invite you to relax in this moment. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in cool, crisp air, and releasing all that no longer serves you. Just allow your forehead and shoulders, all the tension to just drain out of you. Put any thoughts that you have of what has happened or what's coming up aside, just for right now. And allow yourself to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in gratitude and say, I am grateful for the good in your life.
Now I'm on. Very good. Jeffrey, thank you. Brian, thank you. That was excellent. I love having beautiful musical instruments up here behind me, too. It looks like I play them. So, welcome to the last week of the basics of the science of mind. No, not really, because that's what we do here. That is who we are. That is who we are. And so we will continue this month after month, year in, year out. I want to say thank you to those of you who are members of this spiritual community for your support during this time that we have been shuttered, which is going on a year, where we've been doing this virtually. And I want to thank those of you who have no idea who we are, but who tune in every Sunday, who have not met us, who are around the country. It strikes me as probably a little like what online dating is said to be. You've seen us on the screen. One day you'll make your way here, and we hope you're not disappointed. But I don't think you will be, because this is an amazing group of people that we represent, we five who are here today, and Mary, who's often with us, and Melody and Kenzie. The group who put these Sunday mornings together for you are but a small yet significant slice of the family of Creative Life Spiritual Center. Now in its 36th year, for heaven's sake, 36 years we're doing this. So, I want to share with you some thoughts shaped by, you heard Reverend Lisa Ryan speak last week, I'm sure, and if you haven't, it's on Facebook and YouTube, and she said that she had rewritten her talk. She told me during the week before that she'd rewritten it, I think on a walk or a run, and then when she got up here on Sunday morning, she said she'd rewritten it yet again. Well, I had in mind what I was going to say, and then as I sat listening to her, I rewrote my talk here, because running as a metaphor for spiritual practice really works. But I'm not going to go over that ground with you. That's hers. That's hers to do. I'll tell you this. If you get one piece of this spiritual system called science of mind and incorporate it into your life, but one piece, your life will be better, the world's life will be better. Just one. There's more, and I think you'll want 6 or 7 of them anyway, but just one, just one. So if you don't accept everything I say, everything Lisa says, everything that the various speakers, Reverend Arthur coming up at the end of the month, if you sit there and say, I'm not sure about all this stuff, find one thing you're willing to be wrong about and apply that, and your life will get better and the world's life will get better. Our contention in this teaching is that the universe is one whole system. One name for that is God. It's a name a lot of people get hung up on. I talked about that 4 weeks ago. You know, we split hairs over what the nature of God is and all. Just assume for a moment, will you, the universe is one whole system. It's intelligent at every point within itself. It has a law running through all of it, and it's all surrounded in love. And a 4-year-old girl in Wales, did you see this? Yeah, a 4-year-old girl in Wales at the beach. Daddy, come here, look what I found. He goes, and there is a footprint. There's a footprint in the rock, a footprint, a strange lizard-like footprint. Turns out of a dinosaur, 220 million years old, a smallish dinosaur. 220, more or less 219 million, 600 and something thousand years before there were humans. This thing has sat there, and she found it, and they're going to name it for her when the museums reopen, you know, the child who discovered this thing. When that little dinosaur crossed that piece of land, whether that was beach at the time or what it was, and it got its little front forepaw stuck, and it thought in its little dinosaur brain, darn, as it yanked itself out of the mud to make an imprint that, you know, has lasted this whole time. When that thing did that, the same power was at work as fully at every point throughout creation as it is today in this big, bright, modern world that we have, where we now can travel into space, where we now can plumb the depths of the oceans, where we can do all of these amazing things. That same power was present, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be harnessed and used by such as we. That's this one power. And 2 weeks ago, I took you through a process for reminding yourself of this, called spiritual mind treatment. The idea that there's one life, that life is source, that life is the creator of all things, that life is the creation of all things, and that life is your life, my life, and everyone's life right now. And that because of this, we can speak our word along specific lines to manifest particular outcomes. We can co-create with this life in causing things to be, especially at the level of feeling. And feeling tends to shape form. And because of that, we can feel a sense of gratitude welling over us. And because of that, we can trust this process and release into... Is that your amp doing that?
Yeah.
Should I move?
No.
No. Thank you. I heard a power welling up behind me. It was coming through my word, and then I realized, oh, it's a Fender amp. Okay, so this one power, this one presence, everywhere present, being directed by us along specific lines through a process called spiritual mind treatment. Don't get hung up on the name. Don't get hung up on the steps. People do sometimes. I'll hear even practitioners say, oh, no, I missed a step. Oh, no, then the whole thing, the whole system, the whole house of cards comes down. No, it's a way of aligning yourself in consciousness with this power in the midst of turbulence, in the midst of, you know, life, chaos, whatever it is we happen to be facing. And as we learn to do that, a greater sense of peace comes over us, and we fall back in love with life. And that really is the point. The point isn't just to move around conditions. The point isn't just to manifest. Any more than, you know, going back to the idea of support for the center, the idea isn't just that the center rake in a lot of money and be real prosperous and stuff and all like that. It's like, no, it's more of an organic thing. It's so everybody can breathe. It's, you want relief in your life. You want relief in your household, in your family, so you can breathe, so you can create, so you can enjoy things. So somebody can come along to you and say, what a gorgeous day it is outside today, and you can actually appreciate that. How nice is that? Instead of seeing it through all your problems, like we often do. Yes, sadly, yeah, it's a nice day, but I've got this, you know, I'm under this personal cloud is what we often say to ourselves. I got these problems, you don't know. One day I'll enjoy a day like this again. Would you like to be free of that? You can be. You can be. You can be in process. Now, as I say that, I want to hasten to add this, which is really the bulk of what I wanted to share with you today, to clear up a misunderstanding that some people may have about all of this. I know some people have it because they say they do, you know, and we get to discuss it in person in our classes and so forth, and now with you here today. It is this. This teaching is not saying that you're going to be 100% happy all the time. It's not saying that, you know, that you should walk around with a smile plastered on your face. It's not saying that you should disregard situations of life that are complicated, and difficult, and painful, it is saying this. It is saying that you will discover a place where you can go for relief within, to be reminded that whatever trouble you're facing is not permanent, is not inescapable, and is not God ordained. Is not tailored particularly for you, sent to you to punish you or even teach you, you know? That conflict can be resolved through a recognition of oneness. And I'm going to get more into that next week when we talk about what if this happened to you, about empathy and so on, as we move into a month on love and the fact that we were all sent here for love, by love, to be in this world. But it's not about being happy all the time. It's about realizing that there's somewhere that you can go in consciousness that's going to remind you that you're beautiful and whole and perfect, rather than just remind you of all the work you have yet to do. See, a lot of spiritual systems are like, well, you're experiencing that because you haven't done this and this and this, and it's like another long list of things that you have to. Well, you haven't forgiven over here, or, you know, you're still corrupt with sin in this way, or you've got all this work that you've got to do, all this karma you got to burn off along the way. That pathologizes you. That pathologizes the human condition. This teaching is so liberating because it says you were created as a blessing. You were created as a gift of life. And whatever you've done with that has been its own instruction, you know? If you've been a mean and nasty person and you've created bad situations and unhealthy relationships in your life, then you know that you have. At least, I don't know, 99% of the time you know that you have, and you're doing something about it, and you're working through that, and you're pushing through that. I don't think mean people are oblivious to their meanness. I think they're just hurt. They're unconscious maybe of other ways of expressing and so on. But everything has a correction that's organic, that's natural. It's not sent down from on high. It comes up sort of from the ground. You know, everything has a correction. If you're not a friendly person, people don't want to be around you, and you get lonely and you start being friendly. I don't know. Maybe that's oversimplifying it, but you start learning new skills and new tools. And there are plenty of them out there, more than ever before. I mean, there was a book years and years ago, probably 80 years ago now, called How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. A lot of people read that book, and kind of it was how to persuade people to buy your product was sort of a deal. And because that's really what he did, was business-related motivation. But how to win friends and influence people, you know, it's a whole book on self-esteem. It's a whole book on self-worth, the reputation that you have with yourself, the reputation that you have with yourself. When you heal the reputation with yourself, life works better for you. Other people want to be your friend and stuff clears up. So we learn where to go in consciousness to make the changes that we feel we need to make as we go along. All of this predicated on the fact that starting out, you're beautiful and wonderful and great. And along the way, we make some choices, or some people tell us stuff, or we witness reality in a way. We misinterpret it in a way. That happens a lot. We were talking about this in the class the other night, where there's abandonment or something that we take as personal to us, life changes that we take as personal to us, where they're really not. And then there are some things that are personal to us, and we get some dings and dents and bruises along the way. And we know where to take these things, to the place that has only seen us as whole and perfect, and can only see us as whole and perfect. And there we're reminded that there's a part of us, an immortal part of us, okay, an eternal and infinite part of us, that is the source of our strength and also our inspiration. That there's always more to be done in a positive way, in a constructive way going forward. There's always more creativity. There's always more joy. There's always more love. There's always more that we can be. Tomorrow is Bridget's Day, also known as Imbolc, also known as Candlemas. It was a day. Bridget is a Celtic goddess, the matron goddess of poetry, and I'm looking at a poet and healing, and I'm looking at a bunch of agents of healing, and she was so beloved by the people that when the Christian church came into Ireland, they adopted her as a saint. They didn't do this a lot of times. They tended to either offload entirely the deities that they found in different areas, or to turn them into less than wholesome beings. But Bridget was co-opted by the Catholic Church and turned into a saint. And some years ago, the then, I think it was Mary Robinson. I'd have to look this up. I think it was Mary Robinson, who at the time was the Taoiseach, or the Prime Minister of Ireland. She created an event to reconcile the pre-Christian Bridget with the Christian Saint Bridget, and Celtic pagans of the Celtic tradition, or drawn to that tradition, came in from all over the world, and Catholics joined, and they had a great big party. They had a great big celebration in Ireland, and they relit Bridget's flame. I bring this up to you not only because I find it fascinating historically, and I find that symbols like that of unification are so powerful, and they transcend. You might say, well, I'm not familiar with that culture, I'm not drawn to that culture. Yeah, but your culture has this too. Your culture has this too, where somebody has made a conscious decision to facilitate a long overdue healing. I bring this up to you because it's interesting from that point of view, but I bring it up also because here's how it works. How you marry spontaneity to structure, I guess you'd say. The exuberance of the heart. It says, I want to be free of limits. I want to be free of rules and regulations, free to express myself in the way that I am. And so I reject religion, especially overtly organized religion. I still think, if you're going to paint, you need an easel and a canvas and some brushes and some, rags and what have you. There are tools here. There are tools that are offered. Picasso said, learn to work, learn to focus, learn to dedicate yourself like a pro, so that you can be free and break all those rules like a genius. You got to know the rules before you can break the rules. Okay? I see these two guys up here playing guitar. I see them focusing on their hands, their fretwork, they're picking. I mean, they've had to learn, they know musical theory. Before they ever touch an instrument, they know, if I hit this note here, it's going to sound like that, and it's part of this, it's in this key, and all of this. And you do that so that you can improvise. You do that so that you can take liberties with. You learn grammar so that you can take liberties with the language. Grammar and punctuation so that a poet like E. E. Cummings can disregard all of them and just basically lay it all out there, strictly from the heart, also kind of from the gut, You learn the rules so you can break the rules. Learn that there's a system, an orderly, purposeful system in the universe that works along certain lines, and then you can take liberties with that and have fun with that. What are the lines it works along? One is, you can't ever fully involve yourself in one position in consciousness and have an entirely different reality show up for you. So reality is going to conform itself generally, especially at the feeling level, to whatever you believe. Whatever thoughts you wrap in feeling that become packets of belief in your life, this is generally what's going to manifest for you. It won't be any other way. Neither will what the person next to you is believing about themselves kind of bleed over onto you. Neither will a word, when spoken in consciousness, in power, go nowhere. Every treatment manifests in some way. Much of it is unobserved. Maybe it's invisible, but that's argumentative. It's unobserved anyway. Like things are growing right now in the middle of winter here, but they're growing underground. So we're not observing them until they break the surface of the earth. These are some of the principles to understand. There is a principle, there is a way, there is a place that you can go in consciousness. And by place, I'm not talking a physical location. Because spirit being all there is, all things are spiritual. All places are spiritual. All places are equally spiritual. Somebody might say, well, I went to this place and I had a spiritual experience, and they set it up as a shrine or a sacred location of some kind. But that's subjective to it. The place around the corner, the place up the street, it's just as spiritual. Every act is spiritual. Every body of work is spiritual. When you recognize that, then suddenly all the walls come down. And religion comes out of the places where it's been held during certain hours on certain days, and it streams out into daily life. And it becomes a regular go-to kind of thing. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to look at the beauty of the day and the wonder of life. I'm going to look for the good and praise it. And that still works. That's an old saying, but that still works. Look for the good and praise it. You know what happens? The good expands. The good begins to blossom. I've been doing this for years, and it's never failed me yet. You know what happens sometimes? I fail me. I forget to do this. I forget to do this, especially with news feeds and things like that. I look at this and I can't believe, and I get all, bound up in it. That's a choice. That's a choice. Or I liberate myself and I come free and I see something new and positive and beautiful, and there has never been as beautiful a day as this day is today. There was a day about 2.5 years ago that was almost as nice as this one. I think it was a Tuesday, but no, seriously, this is it, It doesn't get any better than this until the next time it does. And then we want to compare and rank these things and so on. And next week there's going to be a Super Bowl, and a team's going to win it. They're going to be the champion. They're going to be the Super Bowl champions of the world until next year. Unless they win it again, in which case it'll be a different team. It won't be this year's team, it'll be next year's team, and so on. You see the point? Things are constantly coming around. Things are constantly refreshing themselves in life. If I'll refresh myself in life by going to the place of my spiritual, I wrote all kinds of notes for today, and I haven't used a single one of them, but that's all right. We personalize the infinite. I'm going to talk more about that next week, how we personalize the infinite, that it's not all about a principle and a process. There's a presence that loves you. I'm not going into it now. I promise you next week. But I want to close with this for today. I always close, and all our speakers close with an affirmative prayer, also sometimes known as a scientific prayer. I'm giving you one today. This is out of the Science of Mind textbook. This is my Science of Mind. This is my original 1976 Science of Mind textbook, which a woman who has long since passed away, who attended here, I told her in a class, I said, when I had a 68 Mustang that had no air conditioning when I got involved in this originally, and I left my textbook on the front seat and it rained. And so the whole thing kind of poofed up. You can see how it has here. Okay. And so this woman who attended here, who is now since gone, she said, give me that. And she took it home and she put this brown, like duct tape all over it and painted the symbol on the front. Isn't that awesome? So this is the original puppy. I have, 10 copies or something. But I thought I'd bring out the Gutenberg Science of Mind text this morning, just for your benefit, to show you this. This is an affirmative prayer by our founder, Ernest Holmes. So I invite you just to let it wash over you and see how you feel about it. He says, I am a center in the divine mind, meaning you are, each of us is, all right? A point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word that I speak because it is of the truth and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and affairs. All belief in wrong action is dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has power, and right action is power. And power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. This Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course at all times. All suggestion of age, poverty, limitation, or unhappiness is uprooted from my mind and cannot gain entrance to my thought. I am happy, well, and filled with perfect life. I live in the spirit of truth, and am conscious that the spirit of truth lives in me. My word is the law unto its own manifestation, and will bring to me or cause me to be brought to its fulfillment. There is no unbelief, no doubt, and no uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know. Let every thought of doubt vanish from my mind, that I may know the truth, and the truth may make me free. And so it is.
And right now I feel sorry for the YouTube people. Because they don't get that. So if you're watching on YouTube, please go back to go to the Creative Life Spiritual Center Facebook page and watch today. Please feel free to watch every day because the music is amazing. But we can't put it on YouTube. So, and I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why you might want to do this is because one of the things that I love about when Brian and Jeffrey jam like that is they bring songs that I know. Like, I know that song. I grew up with that song. Okay, you're not that much older than me. But, like, I know that song. It's part of the soundtrack, that old, what do they call it? The soundtrack of my life? That trope. It's part of the soundtrack of my life. But I never thought of it in a spiritual way until I heard it in a spiritual center. So one of the things that you guys do that I absolutely love is you bring these songs that I know. And then you make me think about them in a spiritual way. So thank you very much. That is truly your gift to us who get to listen to you play. One, it's beautiful. And two, we think about these songs in a little bit of a different way, and it informs us differently. We see it and hear it and feel it in a different way. So thank you very much. And now, I'm going to release you into the world. And I'm going to release you with that idea. Go back and listen to the soundtrack of your life. All of those songs that you love, that you know, and hear that spiritual undertone. Because the blessing of music is so many of these songwriters, they were storytellers. And they're telling you more than one story. They're telling you a fantastic rockin' story, and they may be telling you a deeper spiritual story at the same time. So know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. I'm a part of that love. It flows through me, in me, as me, just as I know that it does each and every one of you. And in that love, there is amazing music. A music that knits everything together. A music that heals. A music that energizes. A music that comforts. A music that brings peace and harmony and love and creativity and joy. And music is the ultimate for telling you that spirit is. Because we are all the divine distributors of this music. If we write it, if we play it, if we sing it, or if we just listen to it. Spirit comes through that music into us, and it takes those ideas through us out into the world, making the world the amazing place that it is. So I commend to you music and peace and love and joy and this beautiful day. So go forth and know spirit better and know, Spirit, with all of the gratitude in our souls, for we're all part of that same amazing soul. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being, and I relax and release, and I release into the music. And so it is.
What about it, Jesse?
Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.